The June morning sun shone brightly on Northford Drive, where luxurious mansions lined the streets of Beverly Hills. Jennifer watched her husband, Michael Miller, leave for work in his beloved Lexus RX, and then return to the kitchen. She carefully packed Tommy's lunchbox with organic vegetables, Trader Joe's bread, celery and carrot sticks, a turkey sandwich on whole wheat bread, and fresh blueberries, all ingredients chosen with her growing son's health in mind. "Mom, I love today's lunch." Tommy ran into the kitchen, his bright red Spider-Man t-shirt vibrant, his face alight with joy. Jennifer gently stroked his head as she lovingly placed the sandwich in his lunchbox. "What are you going to learn today?" "Math. And we're going to read books in English. The teacher says I read very well." Tommy puffed out his chest with pride. Despite being only in first grade, he was already reading at a second grade level. Although his parents, with their focus on education, had influenced his learning, his natural curiosity was the key to his progress. Quiet mornings like these were the Miller family's daily routine. Jennifer earned 80,000 pesos a year as a luxury real estate agent, while Michael contributed 120,000 pesos as a department head at a major construction company. Though not wealthy by Beverly Hills standards, they were a family united by genuine love. Meanwhile, Jennifer's mother, Patricia Henderson, was a well-known figure in Beverly Hills charitable circles. As director of the Children First Foundation, she raised more than $1 million annually to support local children. Or at least that was what it seemed on the surface. In the high society world of Beverly Hills, she was known as the Queen of Charity, and had even received recognition from the state governor. Donors trusted her implicitly, and her word alone was enough to secure million-dollar contributions. Her sister, Ashley Thompson, was also well known, although for different reasons. As a parenting influencer with over 500,000 followers, she constantly received offers from well-known brands like Pottery Barn Kids and Disney Company. She had built the image of a perfect mother while conducting sponsored product reviews. Her Instagram and TikTok posts garnered tens of thousands of likes, and through advertising alone, she generated an income of over 300,000 pesos a year. "With my parenting method, children never get lost," Ashley often declared. Jennifer listened to her sister's pronouncements with mixed feelings. Although they were sisters, their values were very different. As Tommy's 7th birthday approached, he made a request at the breakfast table. "Mom, I want to go to Disneyland. I want to meet Spider-Man." Jennifer became pensive. That same day, she had a crucial meeting at Coldwell Banker Real Estate to close a 25 million peso deal, representing 40% of her annual sales. She couldn't afford to miss it. "We'll take him," offered Patricia. Ashley immediately agreed. Jennifer nodded and smiled, but she didn't notice the shadow lurking behind those smiles. "There's something missing in their eyes. Are you sure your mother and Ashley will be okay? This deal could make or break your year, right?" Michael's words convinced her to reluctantly agree, though she couldn't shake an uneasy feeling. Her mother, after all, was a respected philanthropist, and her sister considered herself a parenting expert. Still, something didn't feel right. "Be careful." "Yes, call me immediately if anything happens." "Tommy, make sure you listen to Grandma," Jennifer warned him repeatedly as she saw him off at the front door. Her son, with his Spider-Man backpack, jumped with excitement. Her mother and Ashley smiled reassuringly. Everything seemed perfect that morning in the exclusive neighborhood. The new Mercedes-Benz drove away and disappeared down the street. The June sky was exceptionally clear. "Tommy looks so happy," Jennifer thought as she looked at the photo on her phone taken at 9 a.m. at the entrance to Disneyland. Her son, in his Spider-Man t-shirt, had his arms open in pure joy. Patricia and Ashley also appeared in the photo with their perfect smiles. "Don't worry, Jenny, we'll take good care of him." Her mother's message arrived shortly after. Jennifer replied briefly. After all, her mother ran the Children First Foundation, dedicating her life to helping children. How could she not take good care of her own grandson? At the Coldwell Banker office, Jennifer immersed herself in preparing the 25 million peso deal. While reviewing the luxury property documents, she occasionally glanced at her phone. At 10 a.m., another photo arrived, now in front of the Ferris wheel. At 11 a.m., one more from Adventureland. In all of them, Tommy looked radiant. "Everything is under control," she thought as she approached the key meeting with her client. That afternoon, she finished her final document, reviewed every detail, and touched up her makeup before entering the meeting. She checked her phone one last time. There were no new photos since noon. They must be having too much fun to take pictures, she tried to convince herself. Just then her phone rang. An unknown number. Normally she wouldn't answer, but a sense of unease made her do so. Mrs. Miller? This is John Martin from Disneyland Guest Services. Your son is currently at our Lost Children Center. Jennifer felt her blood run cold. What? Tommy? But my mother and my sister are with him. Your son was found alone near Adventureland about 30 minutes ago by our staff. We are currently caring for him at the Lost Children Center. Jennifer gripped her phone tightly with trembling hands. Can I speak to Tommy? Of course. On the other end of the line, she heard her son's voice broken by sobs. Jennifer's heart sank. Tommy, are you okay? What happened? Grandma and Aunt Ashley left me. They're gone. Jennifer's body froze. What do you mean? How long have you been there? After lunch, Grandma told me to wait here for a moment, but they never came back. Tommy's trembling voice tied a knot in her throat. His Spider-Man t-shirt was dirty, and his little face was covered in tears. The staff sent her a photo. There was no doubt. He was completely alone. Are you hungry? Did you eat anything? Yes, but I'm hungry again. I was scared, Mom. Those words made something explode inside Jennifer. She immediately dialed her mother's number. It rang several times before she finally answered. In the background, lively music could be heard, as if she were at a shopping mall. Oh, Jenny, what is it? Patricia's voice sounded surprisingly bright and casual. Mom, where is Tommy? Tommy? Isn't he still at Disneyland? What do you mean? Oh, really, I hadn't noticed. There was something strange in her tone. A distance that didn't fit the situation. Ashley's voice was heard in the background. Well, my kids never get lost. Jennifer felt her vision turn red with rage. Mom, Tommy is at the Lost Children Center right now because you abandoned him. Abandoned? Surely not. It wasn't our intention. They called me security. They have it all on surveillance cameras. A silence. Jenny, are you doubting me? I'm the director of the Children First Foundation. I would never abandon a child. But Jennifer wasn't listening anymore. She hung up and immediately called Michael. I'm going to Disneyland right now. You have that important meeting, remember? I'll take care of this. Michael's voice tried to remain firm, but the fury underneath was evident. Jennifer knew he was controlling his emotions with the same discipline that had made him a department head at his construction company. She contacted Disneyland staff again. They explained the situation in detail. Her son showed signs of mild dehydration and emotional shock, but fortunately, he had no serious injuries or health problems. The security footage was clear. Patricia and Ashley were seen deliberately leaving Tommy. Mrs. Miller, allow me to explain your son's situation in detail, the veteran employee said calmly. At approximately 2:15 p.m., your son was having lunch with his grandmother, an aunt near a restaurant in Adventureland. Afterwards, they told him, "We'll be right back," and left without returning. Jennifer clutched her designer bag tightly on the desk. The sleeve of her theory suit trembled slightly. Our security cameras captured both of them heading towards the park exit. They showed no signs of hurry. In fact, they were chatting calmly as they walked. Those words made Jennifer's anger almost explode, but she had to contain herself. She had a $25 million deal to close. She couldn't lose control. Tommy, Daddy is coming for you. Everything is going to be okay now, she told her son, trying to comfort him. When she hung up, she exhaled deeply. She knew she intuited that from that day on, everything would change drastically. The peaceful mornings in her exclusive neighborhood would never be the same again. She looked at her meeting materials and made an internal promise. I will make them pay. Her mother and sister would face the consequences of their cruelty. But above all, she would protect her son's emotional well-being. This incident could not be forgotten. Michael Miller raced towards the Disneyland Lost Children Center. His position as a department head at Constructive Futures and his expensive suit meant nothing at that moment. His mind was on only one thing. His son. Daddy. Tommy's voice echoed in the hallway. Michael bent down and tightly hugged the small body that emerged from the Lost Children Center. The Spider-Man t-shirt was dirty, his eyes red from crying, but the relief on his face at seeing his father was undeniable. "Everything's all right now, son. Daddy's here." With Tommy in his arms, Michael bowed deeply to the staff. Mr. Martin, a veteran employee, explained the details of what they saw in the security footage. At 2:15 p.m., after having lunch at an Adventureland restaurant, Mrs. Patricia and Mrs. Ashley told your son to wait a moment and left the area. The images were played on a large screen on the restaurant terrace. In the video, Patricia had her hand on Tommy's shoulder. Ashley seemed to be recording something with her phone. At 2:20 p.m., they passed by Main Street, already heading towards the park exit. The images were clear. Patricia and Ashley walked calmly, conversing as if Tommy didn't even exist. At 2:45 p.m., security cameras at the park exit captured both of them heading to the parking lot. At no time did they show signs of looking for the child. Michael's face hardened. His wife's mother and sister had intentionally abandoned his son. The evidence was irrefutable. "Daddy, did I do something wrong?" Tommy's trembling voice squeezed his heart. His son was wondering if he was somehow to blame. "No, Tommy, you didn't do anything wrong. Grandma and Aunt Ashley made a terrible mistake." At that moment, Michael's phone rang. William Henderson's name appeared on the screen. Mr. Henderson, Tommy's great-grandfather, Patricia's father, the 86-year-old real estate magnate, seemed to have already understood the situation. "Come to my house immediately. We need to talk." When Michael arrived at the mansion in Beverly Hills, a butler led them silently to the reception room. William Henderson Sr. was sitting in a heavy leather armchair. Beside him was Howard Henderson, senior partner at the prestigious law firm Henderson and Partners, Patricia's husband, Tommy's grandfather. "My daughter abandoned her own grandson," William said in a somber voice. The man whose fortune exceeded $100 million was known for valuing family above all else. "This is a serious matter that affects the honor of our family." His grave tone made it clear that he had already taken action. First, he contacted his lawyers. Then he ordered changes to his will. He also requested the collection of evidence. Everything was progressing rapidly. Meanwhile, Howard, understanding the gravity of the problem, called Patricia. Her response was colder than expected. "You two doubt me?" Her tone was dry. "The Children First Foundation has many followers. If this goes public, the donors will leave." On the other end of the line, Patricia was only concerned about her position. Several charitable organizations had already begun making inquiries. There were concerns about the impact on her reputation. And her sister Ashley was only making things worse. She posted a lengthy explanation on Instagram. "I wanted to create the best memories for my beloved nephew, but he didn't follow our instructions and wandered off on his own." However, her followers began to question this version, which contradicted the facts. Ashley, unaware that surveillance cameras had captured everything, was trying to create a story that favored her. "We will have a family meeting," William announced immediately. All family members received a notification. The events of that day not only revolved around the abandonment of a child but also questioned family trust, and, above all, the morality of those involved. Michael silently watched his son. Tommy had fallen asleep on the sofa in the reception room, exhausted. His Spider-Man t-shirt was still dirty. "They're going to pay for this," Michael swore internally. He and Jennifer had already decided on their course of action, including legal measures. But above all, their son's emotional well-being was the priority. Everything had to be handled with order and strategy. William stood by the window watching the twilight over Beverly Hills. His expression reflected the gravity of what was about to unfold. The atmosphere in the Henderson mansion's living room was dense, heavy. One of the most impressive residences in Beverly Hills, owned by William Henderson Sr., with Italian marble floors, antique French furniture, and Spanish chandeliers, all reflected the solemnity of that night's family meeting. One by one, the family members began to arrive. Jennifer was the first, having concluded an important meeting. Her suit was impeccable, but her expression showed fatigue. Michael had taken Tommy to one of the guest rooms and carefully tucked him into bed before silently closing the door. Then Patricia and Ashley arrived. Surprisingly, they showed no signs of remorse. On the contrary, they acted as if they were the victims. Now we will see the surveillance footage, William said firmly. The butler turned on the 80-inch screen. First footage. Adventureland restaurant, 2:15 p.m. Patricia adjusts her new Hermes bag while telling Tommy, "Wait here, we'll be right back." Second footage. 2:20 p.m. Ashley recording with her phone. Third footage. 2:30 p.m. Main Street. Patricia and Ashley walk calmly, eating ice cream and chatting as if Tommy didn't exist. Fourth footage. 2:45 p.m. Park exit. The two walking towards the parking lot with shopping bags from luxury brands. Last footage. Patricia and Ashley get into a Mercedes-Benz and drive to a shopping mall in Beverly Hills. When the video ended, the room fell completely silent. William's voice boomed harshly. "Patricia, why did you commit such a cruel act?" Father, I have my reasons." Silence. His voice was cold and sharp. "You intentionally abandoned my grandson, my beloved great-grandson." William looked at her sternly. "This fact is now undeniable." Howard Henderson slowly moved his chair away from his wife, Patricia. As a senior partner at Henderson and Partners, he fully understood the legal weight of the situation. This is a form of child abuse. His words fell like a bucket of cold water, freezing the atmosphere in the room. "Even you blame me?" Patricia's voice rose desperately. "I'm the director of the Children First Foundation. I've dedicated my life to helping children. And precisely because of that," William interrupted her severely, "your actions are not only cruel, they are a complete betrayal." The old man closed his eyes heavily before speaking again. "As of today, you and Ashley are out of the inheritance." "Grandpa, that's..." Ashley opened her mouth for the first time. "I've already spoken to my lawyers," William continued unfazed. "All my assets will be transferred to Jennifer and Tommy. In addition, a portion will be donated to a new child protection organization." Patricia's face turned ashen. "Father, but our livelihood." "Your livelihood?" William's voice turned icy. "You lost the right to worry about that the moment you abandoned a 6-year-old child." At that instant, Patricia's cell phone began to ring. It was an emergency contact from the Children First Board of Directors. They had already understood the situation and were calling an urgent meeting. Ashley's cell phone vibrated incessantly with notifications. Her Instagram post was being bombarded with critical comments. People didn't believe her version. A new email appeared on her screen. One of her main sponsors had just announced the termination of their contract. Patricia was in shock when her husband, Howard, spoke coldly. "I also have something to say." His expression was more severe than ever. "Tomorrow, I will contact a divorce lawyer." "Howard?" Patricia looked at him incredulously. So this was his true nature. "In 30 years of marriage, I've never felt so disappointed." Despite his dignified posture as a senior partner at Henderson and Partners, his voice was filled with sadness. Meanwhile, the media began to move quickly. A reporter from the Beverly Hills Courier requested an interview with Patricia. At the same time, the Children First Foundation launched an internal investigation. "This act goes against the principles of our organization, and we take it with the utmost seriousness." The official statement from the board was already circulating in the media. Ashley's public image was collapsing. The self-proclaimed parenting expert influencer had abandoned a child. Hypocrite. The comments on social media were increasingly harsh. Companies should reconsider their contracts with this person. Brands began to react, led by Pottery Barn Kids. Major sponsors announced the cancellation of their contracts with Ashley, one after another. Her follower count dropped from 500,000 to 300,000 in just 24 hours. "This is just the beginning," William stated. No one dared to contradict him. Night fell over the Henderson mansion living room. The chandelier light illuminated the pale faces of Patricia and Ashley. No one supported them. The former queen of high society and the famous influencer found themselves completely alone. In the next room, Tommy slept peacefully. Jennifer had changed him into a clean t-shirt. Tommy's small body, wrapped in his Spider-Man pajamas, had finally found a peaceful rest. The family meeting lasted until late at night. Meanwhile, Patricia and Ashley's phones didn't stop ringing. Critical notifications, public notices of contract terminations from sponsors, interview requests from the media. The collapse showed no signs of stopping. 1 year later, The aroma of coffee wafted through the kitchen of their new home in Beverly Hills. "Mom, make Daddy a sandwich too." Tommy's voice rang out cheerfully. In his Spider-Man pajamas, he watched Jenny from the other side of the kitchen island. "Of course, honey. I'll make sure to make him one too." Jennifer layered fresh vegetables and turkey between slices of Trader Joe's organic bread. The morning scenes of the past were gradually returning. A year had passed since that incident. During that time, the family had changed significantly. First, Jennifer established her own real estate agency, Miller Family Real Estate. In a short time, she earned a solid reputation in Beverly Hills. Great-grandfather William's trust and support were key to her success. Michael, for his part, was promoted to vice president at Constructive Futures. His determination to protect his family and his dedication to work earned him that advancement. But most notable was the change in Tommy. Through therapy twice a week, his trauma healed little by little. The bright smile of the Spider-Man-loving boy had returned. "Mom, I'm okay now." When Tommy said this suddenly one day, Jennifer couldn't help but cry. Meanwhile, Patricia and Ashley's downfall had been more dramatic than anyone imagined. The Children First Foundation made a decisive decision to fire Patricia. The most important donors withdrew their support immediately. "We cannot allow someone who committed such a heinous act as abandoning a child to lead a child support organization," was the final verdict. Ashley's decline was even faster. In just 2 weeks, she lost more than 90% of her followers on social media. Her image as a parenting influencer collapsed completely. All sponsoring companies terminated their contracts. Her glamorous life with an income of 300,000 pesos a year disappeared in an instant. Now both lived in a small apartment in the San Fernando Valley, a modest life far from luxury. Patricia, sunk in depression, almost never left home. Ashley, unable to find a new job, spent her days secluded. "They brought this upon themselves," Howard said. His words sounded cold, but they were the truth. After the divorce, Howard retained his position as senior partner at Henderson and Partners. Every weekend, family dinners were held at the Henderson mansion. The 86-year-old real estate magnate, William, valued time with his great-grandson Tommy above all else. "It was the wisest decision of my life," he said about changing his inheritance. Most of his assets, exceeding $100 million, would be entrusted to Jennifer and Tommy. Part of the fortune was allocated to the creation of a new organization, the New Dawn Foundation. The name symbolized the family's determination to start anew, based on the experience of Tommy's abandonment. The foundation focused on providing emotional support to children in vulnerable situations. Jennifer became one of the directors, actively involved in its operation. "I learned the difference between genuine love and fake love," she said in an interview. The foundation's mission was to fight against cruelty disguised as kindness, against those adults who hurt children for the sake of social status and appearances. The morning sun in Beverly Hills shone with the same intensity as always. "Daddy!" Tommy ran cheerfully towards Michael as he passed by the house before leaving for work. His new Spider-Man t-shirt shimmered in the sunlight. "Are we going to Grandpa's house tonight, right?" Michael and Jennifer looked at each other and smiled, nodding. Since the incident, their relationship with Howard had strengthened. The old man's love for his grandson was more genuine than ever. The aroma of freshly made sandwiches filled the kitchen. On the living room wall hung a framed piece with the principles of the New Dawn Foundation. "Protecting those we love sometimes requires making painful decisions, but those decisions bring with them a new tomorrow." Those words silently told the story of their journey over the past year. Outside, the California sun rose on the horizon, marking both an end and a new beginning. It was the light that announced the dawn of a new story, one guided by true love.